Go to TAPgiles.com to learn dreams, engage my services, and support the channel. I'm going to talk about the signal generator. A signal generator just outputs a signal basically over time, and it changes by itself. So if I plug it into a value slider and play time, you can see it's kind of wobbling between 0 and 1, going up and down. And in here you actually have a graph of it going up and down as well. So you can see kind of the range of values it's giving, and the dot on the left is what the value is it's actually outputting, and it's going up and down, up and down. If you adjust the sweep seconds, that is how long it takes to get from the top to the bottom or the bottom to the top. That is known as the sweep, going from a minimum value to a maximum value. It also has this phase offset, which you can use to adjust where it starts basically. So now it will start on 0.3, now it will start on 0.5 and then carry on from there. It's quite hard to kind of wire stuff into this and get a reliable behavior. So this is more to just purely set where it's starting. If you leave it on 0, it'll start on the minimum value, which is actually set down here. Change this to be 0.5, then now you can see the graph is starting at 0.5 and it's going to 1, and it will just go between those two numbers instead. If I change the maximum to 2, then we can see it goes from 0.5 to 2 and back to 0.5. So you can use these sliders to set kind of the range of these values, but you can also give it a random point that it's trying to get to. So instead of going to just 0.5 every time, if I set this to 0 and 1, then every time it wants to go down to the minimum value, then it'll pick a random value in that range. So each time it goes down, now it's going to go down to 0.1, and then it's going to go down to 0.8, and so on. And you can do the same for the maximum range, and you can actually flip these around. So if I set this to 0 and this to some higher number between 6.7 and 9, that will still work. It just uses this as one of the ends and that as the other end, and it will alternate between them. So now both of these, when it goes quote unquote up to the maximum, it will go to a random number in that range, and when it goes down to the minimum, it will go to a random number in that range. So if I set this to 1, and that from 0 to 1, every time it sweeps to a new number, it's going to go to a random value between 0 and 1. So when it goes to the max, it will go to random value, and min a random value. And if I change the sweep seconds to something really short, it will be changing between 0 and 1, or finding a random value really quick. And if I go to 0 sweep seconds, then every logic frame, which is 30 times a second, it's giving a random number and outputting it. Apart from the first time it will go to that phase offset that you've set. So this is a good way to get a random thing happening. The last setting is pause time range, and that works the same as this. So if we just set them both to the same, 4 seconds, then it will pause at 4 seconds when it gets to one of the ends, and then it'll go to a new end, and it'll stop and go to the pause for that amount of time again. So if you change this to 2 seconds, it will pause at 2 seconds at each of those random values. You can also make this random. So if I make this between 1 and 2, it'll pause between 1 and 2 seconds at a random amount of pause, just like these slider pairs work. And with these slider pairs, if you drag the lower one beyond the upper one, so this one's 5.5, if I drag the lower one above that, then the top one will follow along. And if you drag the top one below the minimum of the range, then it'll drag that one along as well. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something interesting. Go to patreon.com/TAPgiles to learn something new every day.